Actually, the drawing I'm the most proud of, it was like I was 4 years old. I must have been laying on the floor, and I drew a 3D picture of a chair with a table and, you know, that kind of stuff. And I thought, wow, I was awesome. At 4 years old. That's about it. Cartoons. I drew Disney cartoons all my life. So, my mom and dad, the way I got into art was my mom and dad drew me an ABC book with pictures and taught me the ABCs, and I colored the pictures they drew. Like A is for apple and B is for ball. And because of that, art's been, and drawing has just been a part of my life, my whole life. I didn't even know we weren't supposed to draw. But all kids are creative, so. And I got stuck on Disney and copied cartoons. Then in about the 7th or 8th grade, when you start getting crushes on boys, that's when I started drawing pictures, like drawing portraits of Ricky Nelson and James Dean, when I had crushes on them, and I had to get them so it looked exactly like them. And I worked so hard at getting them, the likenesses good, that it became a profession. You know, when I finally ran into somebody who wanted the caricatures drawn at a party, or pictures of people drawn at a party, I was ready to go. And that became a profession. Let's see, I should say that after I went to college and took art, I got a job at Disneyland, dream job at Disneyland, 1965, the year of the Watts riots. And so I've been doing that ever since. The thing that people would be surprised about me is I might look like I know what I'm doing, but I really don't. Everything is new every time I do something. I have to learn all over again. I mean, I sort of know what I'm doing, but I don't know. I can't talk and draw at the same time, remember? What I would tell up-and-coming struggling artists, that the best thing to do would be to take classes and learn all sorts of different techniques. And don't worry about their personal image or style, because it'll come. You just borrow from everybody as you go along and make it your own later. So learn all the different techniques. Learn how to paint, learn how to sculpt, learn how to do lithograph, learn computer, learn digital, and then find your niche as you go along, as you grow up and mature. There have been two separate venues, fine art and illustration and caricature, with a big wall between them. So it's something I've been wanting to combine my whole life, and that's what I'm doing with my latest sculptures. I'm doing sort of a cartoony caricature, old 1930s cartoon style bodies with faces that, I mean, I've been drawing faces for 50 years professionally, ever since my stint at Disneyland. So I've drawn thousands and thousands of faces, and even so, I still have to learn all over again every time I do it. I took a great class from a man named Jim Lee in Auburn about the structure of the face, which this little sculpture down here, the Indian, the planes of the face that go like this. I sort of left the planes in there so that I could see what I'm doing when I do something like this one. And I love to get personality into the face. When I took classes at Davis, people who were models were just things, slabs of meat, my teacher would say. And so you just studied the shape and the form and the shadows, and it was art for art's sake. And I love that, but I like the personality. Franz Hals had a lute player, and he was laughing and playing the lute, and I thought, that's what I want. My very first class in drawing from Wayne Thiebaud, he was teaching us gesture drawing, and he said, get that gesture down real fast, just in a blink of an eye, because it's going to move. So that has stuck with me my whole life. And there's a little gesture drawing of Wayne Thiebaud over here that I did from that snapshot of him telling us how to draw gesture drawings back in my early class. And so I did a sculpture of him from that snapshot in my mind of him teaching us gesture. Yet when he paints people, he's the one that said they're slabs of meat. And they just sort of sit and relax, and it takes hours to really paint a portrait and get the colors and all that settled in. And you get the gesture first, and then you work on it. But I like to stick with the gesture and try to keep that fresh. This portrait I'm doing of Jesus here, I want him to have a personality, not just the normal, boring Jesus that a lot of people depict. So I'm going to have him kind of with an expression of, what did you think? Or what do you think of this? As he does his 40th miracle for the day. Clay is cool because you can pound it. You can't get mad with clay. That's one reason I really like clay. It's primal. It's like baking bread. It comes right out of your fingers from your heart. Painting takes a little more planning. So that's why I like clay. And it's so forgiving. Clay is awfully forgiving. Clay and paint are both forgiving, oil paint. So you can paint over it or smash it, do it over. That's my thing, and I'm sticking to it. Well, one thing we did to youth to destroy their creativity was defund it in the schools, which was really a shame, a really big shame. That was probably in the late 80s, early 90s, when we first moved up here. It was good for me because I got asked to do after-school art programs because the mothers and the teachers knew arts were essential for the kids. If you just go to school and do math and science and social studies and history, you have to memorize this and memorize that and memorize this, but the arts can put it all together. They're all related, and art is related. Art is in math. You use math and art all the time, and you draw historical figures and history. A lot of the history that we know of is from drawings that people did on the war field and stuff like that. It's really a shame because the kids need the arts. Like I said, it's our therapy. It's how we express ourselves. It's how we get out our emotions. There is another sculptor in Sacramento that I know of who did a sculpture of her mother while she was on her deathbed, or while she was dying. She was working out her grief. Her mother had breast cancer, and she did a sculpture of her mother with a big hole in her breast. And it's therapy, like I said. I don't know if you know Steve Kaltenbach or not, but he did the same thing with his father. A big, huge portrait of his father on his deathbed. wow, you know, work it out. I was at Davis during the early 60s, UC Davis, and Robert Arneson and Wayne Thiebaud were just beginning their careers, just breaking out. And the grad students there were David Gilhooly and Steve Kaltenbach and Peter Vandenberg and Maya Peoples. Just, they were the ones that, I mean, where all the experimentation started. And like, I was an undergraduate, so I was influenced by them all. And you can see influences from those days in my art still. Like on my sculptures that I'm doing now, Peter Vandenberg, I guess, was the one who started putting like carrots or something on the top of his sculptures' heads, just stupid little funny things to make it different. And so I have a nod to him on some of my sculptures. Audrey Hepburn, which is going to be in the member show at the Blue Lion here, I put a piece of chocolate cake on her head because, you know, Audrey Hepburn, she's just slim and beautiful and just slight, you know. I mean, who would ever think chocolate cake with her? But she has this quote, this great quote that says, let's face it, everybody needs a piece of gooey, creamy chocolate cake once in a while. I know it's good for me. It's a series that I'm working on, and that's what I'd like to do from now on, is fun, caricature, fine art, sculptures with quotes that I like. For example, Mark Twain has a fly on his head, and my favorite quote from Mark Twain of all the millions of quotes of his was, "God created nothing in vain, but the fly came close to it."